Jason here, and today we have one of the most important fundamental endgames, rook and pawn endgames being the most common, and the Lucena position, as we have here, is one of the most important and famous of those rook and pawn endgames. It's called the Lucena position because something to do with this book that was written in 1497 by Luis Ramirez de Lucena, although he didn't actually mention this endgame in that book. So why it got that name is not exactly clear. But let's go ahead and get right into it. So the idea here, so it's white to play. And if you understand the Lucena position, this is an easy win. Okay, so first of all, we have to create space for ourselves. We'd like to be able to get our king out, but we can't because their king is in the way. So our first move is just to go ahead and check that king. And now he's forced to step away. And now we do this kind of subtle move. This is the important thing to know, is this is a special move to kind of build a bridge, as they say, although it's more of like a body shield. Okay, so now we're going to use that rook later to help us out. Now we have to dance around here while maintaining protection on that pawn. We've got to keep that pawn guarded the whole time, so you don't want to step away from that, of course. And now the reason we may move that rook becomes evident. Now we're put in check, and we can go ahead and block. And if he captures, there's no way to stop that pawn. That's a passed pawn there. His king cannot get there in time. Okay, and our first example here, it is white to move. So the last move actually was king to e6. So he was on d6. If he had just moved to e6, what would you play? Well, we want to take advantage. We can't be checked. We'd like to get out of the way of our pawn there, and this prevents this from being a checking move from black. So now he's going to go ahead and run to the far side of the board, and we've got to watch out. He's threatening checkmate. We're all blocked in there, so we have to give check, and we can go ahead and promote here if we want. Go ahead and get a queen, and we might trade, but as long as you know your box mate, this should be no problem. Let's move on to the second example. White to play here. You can pause your video and think about it as you like. What are you going to do? I'm going to play rook to f1 check, driving the king away. And you can go and pause your video again and think about what move you would make here. But yeah, we want to make that bridge. And that's so we can get in front. And now we've got enough space, so we can go ahead and get that king out. He puts us in check. We got to do the little dance, keeping in contact with our pawn the entire time. Very important we keep that pawn defended. And now we've got the rook in place. We've got that bridge built, so that's not a problem. He checks us, and now there's no way to stop us from promoting. If rook captures, we capture back. He's just not going to get there in time, and we get the queen. Okay, example number 3. Again, we've got white to move here, so you can go ahead and pause your video and think about it as you like. What are you going to do? Well, we've seen this one before, so you probably jumped right on moving the rook over and checking the king. But what are we going to do here? So this is kind of subtle, but there's another issue here that you may not see. And we can use this as a learning experience one way or another. So white to play. What are you going to play here? So we actually don't want to play this move here. This is normally what we would play, and again, this is kind of subtle, but if we do that, then the king's just going to attack us. So what we can do instead is actually just move our rook all the way up. And this kind of serves the same purpose. If he comes after us here, then we can just go ahead and move our rook down, and now we've got the extra space that we need. If he comes down after us with his king, we can go ahead and step out And if he checks us, then of course we've got that same scenario once again. So we're able to build the bridge again. Okay. All right, and the next example here. So it's white to play here, and basically we're just a little further on. We're just a little further on in the same scenario. What move are you going to make here? You can pause your video as you like. But yes, this is just further on. We need to maintain contact with that pawn. And if he checks us, now we can actually make that jump. And he checks us again. Now we've got the block, and there's no way for him to save that. King is too far away to get to that pawn. So that's another win for us. Next example here. Okay, so this is a little bit different scenario now. So we're not quite where we want to be with this Lucena position. What you do here is white to try to get yourself some space. Go ahead and pause your video and think about it as you like. But we're actually just going to get this rook out of the way here. We want to get him out of there. We have an opportunity to get out of the way of our pawn, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And now we're attacked. And you don't want to just move here. You want to get yourself some, we want to get ourselves some space. So we're going to move back, and now black gets back on the pawn, and now we're in that Lucena position again. We're going to want to get our rook down here somewhere. We're going to want to drive that king back, but we'll be getting back into that same scenario. This is our final example. What should we do here as white? So it's white to play. What are we going to do? Well, this is really just more of the same thing. We want to be able to build that bridge there. So we're just going to make that move. So we go here, and what is he going to do? If he comes out with the king, we'll go ahead and get our king out. And then we have that same scenario where we've got to stay in contact with our pawn until we're ready to use the bridge. And there we go. This concludes the video on the Lucena position. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell if you'd like to know about future chess videos. Thank you very much for watching, and have an excellent week.